This is the Your Money Hour podcast. I am your host, Dakota Grady. Everybody, welcome to the show. Great day here, sunny in South Carolina. And whether you're in California or around the world, thank you for joining us today. And I have a guest today, but before we get started, if you need help with personal finances and you're struggling and you're worried about your finances, I know it's tax season, but you may need to handle your finances through the year, not just this time of year. Go to my website at dakotagrady.com to get resources to help you with your finances. And if you need help with your accounting and taxes for your business, specifically if you're a nurse practitioner or a nursepreneur and you need help with accounting and taxes, contact me today at dakotagrady.com. So I'm excited today to have my guest, Mr. Jose Bennett. Mr. Jose, he spoke at the content bootcamp Atlanta about a month ago now. So I wanted to have him on here because the guys he's fire, man. He basically talks about creating courses, but also branding as well. So without further ado, Jose, you got the floor, brother. How you doing?
Look, man, I'm feeling amazing. A little sluggish, little tired out here in New Orleans. Just got in late last night. Crazy. Got in here. It's a little colder than I expected, for real, for real. But looks like it's gonna be a warmer day today. But I'm here, bro. We out here. We about to make this thing pop, bro.
Yes, sir. So tell everybody about what you do and who you are, Jose.
Yeah, look, I don't. The funny part is I don't talk a lot about my resume, right? That is one of my biggest things, and you probably heard me when I spoke at the event. A lot of times, a lot of people will only justify your validity based off of who you work with, right? I'm one of those ones where I don't base it off of my ability, I base it off of my results, right? And I got results with a high levels of individuals and quantifiable results out here in these streets in regards to personal branding and courses. And a lot of times I don't talk about it because it's almost like if you get into that new relationship and you used to say, well, I used to rub her feet, or I used to light candles, or I used to cook her dinner. Like, all right, what you done for me? So my whole thing is if you rock with me and I give you any type of value, then now we got some validity in regards to who I am and who I am to you specifically. But before that, I don't even talk about my resume too much. I like to be that black man that is in the night, you know what I'm saying, throwing smoke bombs and just appear. That's just how I move. For real, because a lot of times people will start off with their story about, yo, I did this, I did that. I was like, oh, that's great. What have you done for me? And I always say two things, simple and selfish. Simple is that people will be able to understand what you're saying, whatever you're teaching, whatever you're educating, whatever you're inspiring to do, however you're entertaining them. And then the selfish part is truly, as humans, we all have a selfish nature, right? My old manager or my old coach used to always say, people only listen to one station, that's WIIFM. What's in it for them? And so if I know how to play on those selfish desires that we innately have, then I'm gonna always win. So we're gonna keep this thing simple and selfish. Hopefully I'll be able to add that value at this juncture.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well,
Yeah.
how did you get into the branding space? Like, talk about that. How important is branding as well?
Yeah. So the funny part is officially I got into it while working with, of course, Eric Thomas. Of course, now I had to drop a name, right? Eric Thomas, the motivational speaker. For those who don't know, I say Google the top motivational speakers in the world, and you see, as far as him, like one or two, battling against Tony Robbins. But anywho, I initially found it there. But as I started to look back, I used to work at Verizon Wireless retail. And one of the things that I noticed is that we all of us, as far as employees or salespeople, we would sell the same products: cell phones, accessories, services, insurances, and everything like that. But what happened is I started to notice I had people who would come to me and was like, yo, now I'm here waiting for Jose. Someone will wait an hour, someone will wait with two, sit on the couch, go to Popeyes, get some chicken, sit on the couch and wait. And more often than not, they will actually spend more money with me. So they will spend more time, invest more time waiting for me to finish up with previous clients. Yet at the same time, also spend more money with me than if they did with my boy Roger, or than they would if they would do Mike, or than they do what they would do with my girl Carla. And so when I noticed that, I was like, okay, there's an aspect of branding that has to go with that. There's a feeling, there's an emotional response to me as a person. Because again, we all selling the same product. So what is the difference between them waiting for me? And then here's the other thing. As nationwide, there was 25,000 individuals who sold the same products as me. Yet every month I was in the top 5, top 10. Now I wasn't even trying, to be honest with you. I was just being true and authentic as far as to who I am as a person. But then I had to recognize, okay, if I could keep that level of consistency, not really focus on the numbers, but focus on the people that are in front of me and make them feel like that are most important to me, I'm gonna always win. And one of the things is always going to be with integrity. I'm going to always make sure you get the best results, right? I'm going to make sure you get the best experience. I'm going to entertain you. There's going to be some sort of entertainment in there. I'm going to educate you. There's going to be some sort of inspiration. So I brought that same thing over into this space of entrepreneurship and literally taking your expertise and that thing that you've been educated on and your quantifiable results and your core competencies, the things that you might have learned on the job or things you might have learned in school, things you might have learned in college, and be able to bring that into the forefront where it's telling your story, your brand story. And the biggest thing I always talk about is there's a gap in the industry. There's a gap in the story, but it needs your voice. It needs your story. Right. And what happens is I always say this thing is life or death. And a lot of times people don't understand that in regards to just being a brand. This thing is life or death. Your brand does most of the heavy lifting, right? Because it's the feeling. I run it back to, if we talk about just brands in general, when I think of Pepsi, a lot of times people think of soda or they might think of the Pepsi commercials. For me, I think of my grandma. And the reason why I think of my grandma is because when I used to go to the house, she had these glass bottles of Pepsi that had the dust on it. They were collector's items. And then at the same time, if you brought any other soda in there, she's like, you better not bring no other soda. We only drink Pepsi in here. And again, it's a feeling. There's an emotional response. So when I go through the aisles in the grocery store and I see the Pepsi, I think of my grandma. I think about what she imparted to me, that emotional response, that feeling that I got. And I tell people in regards to your brand, it's not your logo, it's not your colors, it's not just your gimmicks, it's not just how you speak. It is the totality of all those things. What is that feeling? And once we understand who that is and who we are in the marketplace, oh, we're going to win. Because we could always be consistent. We could always be in a space where every time we show up, whether it's our vernacular, how we speak, what we do, how we move our hands, right? We get into a space of, oh, okay, I know what he's going to do. And what happens is there's going to be a level of comfort that comes with that when we talk about branding.
So basically, it's like when people are showing up, do you think people are showing up as the fake selves? Because you said something's missing as a gap, right? So
Yep.
what is that gap? You think people showing up fake, like the facade? Your
Well,
opinion?
so it made me think of when I used to go watch the movies Fast and Furious at the movie theaters, right? You're like, Jose, what you talking about? I will go watch those movies, and then as soon as I get in my car, I'm driving fast. I'm whipping it. I'm getting it. Or if I watch a superhero movie, then and so what happens is a lot of times what we're doing or the way we're acting is based off of something that we've seen. It's not really true and authentic as far as to ourselves. We're basing it off of somebody else's social media. We're basing it on somebody else's YouTube. We base it off of somebody that we like. And because we like them, we're doing a mirror or we're reflecting as far as what they're doing onto ourselves. And truly, don't get me wrong, it can work for a little bit. I know when I first started rapping, I used to write down the rapper Nas's lyrics, and I was like, okay, then I put my lyrics right on top of it, and it got me to a place of learning techniques. But at the same time, I could not hold that same thing true in regards to who I am as a rapper or as a performance artist, right? And so a lot of times we're not even knowing, it's subconscious that we're looking at other people and we're trying to be like other people. And so once I figure out who we are, it's a deep down internal thing when I look at it as far as this personal branding thing. It's almost like it's like therapy, right? That therapist don't know you from Adam, yet you tell your story, then they uncover things, they ask you additional questions, you pull you out, you're like, oh, I didn't even think about it like that. Right. And the main reason that is because we never really sat down and we talk about our brand because again, we're just going out there willy-nilly. But then we don't have that know, like, and trust factor. When I break down the know, like, and trust factor, we've heard it all the time, right? So when I think about the know portion of it, I think of intimacy. So if you go back to the Bible, a lot of times when they talked about the word know, they were talking about sex or intimacy. Adam knew Eve. And we're talking about that in that space. And so is there a level of intimacy that comes about in regards to you and your tribe or you and your followers, your partners, the people who subscribe to you? Is there a level of intimacy? Do they know you? Right. And then we have the like and always ask the question. I was like, yo, have anybody had a person in their life that they hated? Like, a lot of people were like, yeah. It's like, okay, has anybody had the person in their life that they hated and now they're like their best friend, and or maybe in a relationship, and or maybe their spouse? And they're like, yes. And I was like, okay, so what was that thing that broke the mold? You hated that person on one end, now they're your best friend, or you hated that person on one end, now they're a close relationship, or you hated that person and now and it was like, okay, what happens is there's a bridge. On one end, you have you, on the other hand, they have them, but normally it's based off of a solution. There's something on the other side that you have a common ground, and you got to get across that bridge. That's where somebody likes you, right? So maybe it is something that I found that we have a common ground. Maybe it's trauma bond. That is one of those hot topics we talk about. But then also maybe in that trauma bond, you showed me how you were able to get over it, and I like you for that. Maybe it's a level of entertainment. Maybe it's something that you make me laugh, right? You make me smile. Okay, great. That is a bridge. We're getting across that thing, right? And so what happens is when we talk about even just the like portion, what is the bridge? What did you have to offer? Remember, we said simple and selfish. What do you have to offer me, or what do you have to offer your tribe for them to like you? And then the trust was, are you being vulnerable? Are you showing up? Are you being consistent? And even in a relationship, you think about the trust aspect is there's no written contract to say you need to be home by 9:30, but you need to be home by 9:30. And the first time you show up at 11:30, I don't feel too good about what you just did. The next time you show up at 12:30, or the next time you show up as far as when the sun come up the next day, again, there's nothing written there, but at the same time, this is a pattern that you have. And a lot of times we're showing up online, or we're showing up on our podcast, and then what happens is we break the trust when we miss a day, or we break the trust when we miss a week, or we break the trust when we miss a month. And here's the other part of it, not even just that space. Are you being vulnerable? Are you being true and authentic to yourself? A lot of times people are showing up as Wonder Woman or Superman. But here's the thing about it. If Superman didn't have kryptonite, he would be OD, right? Or OP, right? And what happens is when you overpower, you become born. And a lot of times people will not be able to connect with you because they're like, oh, this person has already got it all together. But when you show the vulnerabilities now, it's like, oh, I could trust you because I'm going through similar things, and how you were able to get through that. I rock with you. So that's how I break down that whole know, like, and trust, just on the simple surface of that.
Like that. And
Mhm.
then if you want to add another part, I would say, how do people remember you? Right? That part
Yeah.
there. No, like trust. How do you think that people can remember you in your type of
Mhm.
mind?
Yeah. Yeah. That is the funny part is before I even knew what I was doing, that used to be my saying. I said if I came in contact with somebody, my biggest thing, I just wanted to be remembered. I didn't even know that's what I was doing. I didn't know I was doing a form of branding. I just said I want to be remembered because the people who I remember had the most impact on my life, even if it was something quick, even if it was something. I never forget this one time. Me and my son's mom, we were in what was that place called? Denny's. And we were waiting for getting. We were in line. There's a lot of people in there. Felt like it was like a Mother's Day or something, or just a busy Sunday. I had on the hood. I used to always wear my hat to the front. You couldn't really see me, right? I was always like to myself. And this dude came over, and my son's mom was pretty attractive. And normally I get it to a point where dudes always come over and say how attractive she was. Well, he came over and he was like, and he leaned in, and I was like, first and foremost, I'm feeling to make sure I got my knife on just in case I gotta see if something gonna happen. And he said, yo, I'm gonna be honest with you, you're gonna help bring a lot of people to Christ. I said, what? And so what happens is now at that point he says this, I'm shaking up. I'm like, yo, you cut through all these crowd of people and looked at this dude who probably dressed like he just came off of the street, and he looked like he was our hood also. Just to whisper in his ear to talk about him bringing people to Christ. Now you talking about being remembered, right? Because he imparted something. The Holy Spirit talked to him, not to get too, in the spiritual or more religious space, but the Holy Spirit talked to him and said, yo, I need to sell this to this gentleman. I will remember that till the day I leave this earth. Right. And so that was me. I had to be in the space of every time I came in contact with somebody, I have to impart something where it's not cookie cutter, right? That every time that I came in contact with an individual, I had to treat them as such and make sure that they will leave with an impression of impact. That's why I say I impact those who impact the world, because if I could plant a seed in that person, that can help the trajectory, not just of their day, but of their week, their life, their kids, their family, right? They always say if the oceans were still, one drop could make a tidal wave at the shores. And I'm big on that. I'm big in the space of I have to impact those people. I have to be able to do something that's going to impact not just them, their circle, their group chat, their family, their children, and that thing becomes a ripple effect. And then they start impacting people and they start doing all those things. So when you say remembered, that was always my key thing from the jump. Yeah.
Wow. Dude, like, I like when you spoke about life and death part about it. Talk about that, because some people are so afraid to share the content, to get out there. And how important is it to just get out there, opposed to holding on to things that we know we need to share, but we're afraid to?
Yeah. So one of the things I always say, a closed mouth doesn't get fed, nor does it feed. Again, a closed mouth does not get fed, nor does it feed. And if your mouth is closed and you're not showing up, you're not feeding your tribe. And here's the crazy part. There are people who need your message. There are people who need your voice, and they can hear it from 5 other people. Yet it's ordained, preordained for it to come from you. But if you're not walking in the obedience of your message, if you're not walking in the obedience of your brand, that person will never hear it. It could be a space of them being in a negative space and maybe suicidal. It could be in the space of them hurting somebody else. And all they needed was your voice, your mentorship, that thing that you have that nobody else has to get them out of it. But then let's take it to a step further. I think always the most audacious thing, and I say lampshades. I have a lamp right here. Let's say if I make lampshades, right? And my whole thing is me making lampshades, I have to be the best daggone lampshade person on earth. Excuse me, I'm eating peanuts. I have to make the best daggone lampshade person on earth. And I'm branded as that. I'm known as that. I get into a space of that. So what happens is now I'm known and people are like, yo, I'm gonna start buying lampshades. I rock with Jose because the way he talk about lampshades and different colors and how it affects the moods and as well as the light bulbs and how they would work and incandescence and things of that nature. I don't know what I'm talking about right now, but again, if I'm in that space, you're like, yo, I'm rocking with him. I'm following him on IG. I'm following his YouTube page because the way he talk about lampshades and the different shapes and the different materials. And you remember how at your grandma's house you used to have the plastic around that, but you don't even know what that's for. But then now, because of the brand that you have in regards to lampshades, now I'm making money. Now I'm getting resources. I have people, I have influence. That also will lead to philanthropy. That philanthropy now I can give it to, as far as different charitable donations. I can show up, my cup runneth over, and now that runneth over is what I'm able to give as far as to the people is not and more. That thing could help you from getting homeless. That thing can help you from being on foreclosure. That thing can help your kid get to private school because they're getting bullied as far as a public school because of that philanthropy. Why? Because first off, we started all because of me being the best in lampshades. And see, I want people to think about it. Lampshades is the most audacious, craziest thing you probably ever heard of. And then we just talked about 6 degrees of separation that helps somebody get through something. Yet every time I talk or every time I speak, more often than not, is 1 degree of separation from you and your client, or maybe 2 degrees of separation from you and that person you get help change their life. And when we don't show up, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. And then we're doing this disservice. And a lot of times when we don't show what we're thinking internally versus externally. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm an introvert. Introvert, again, internally. We're thinking about internal, right? Extrovert is extra. But the thing about it, when we talk about the extra or the outside, we're talking to everybody else. We're talking about the person that you need ain't in your house. The person that, well, of course, if you got children and things of that nature, a wife, a spouse, yes, they're in your house. But that person who is indirectly affected by you or directly affected by your program, by your work, by your course, by your social media, you're helping them get through as far as their day, their week. They are on the outside. They are extra. And the thing about it, we start thinking too much about ourselves, and then we're in a selfish nature. Now, I said simple and selfish, but that selfish nature ain't about us. It's about them. We're playing on their selfish needs and their desires and their benefits and their wants. And so when we show up as far as just for ourselves, you might as well just stay in the house. But then you being selfish. Then
Right.
you know what I'm saying? And
Yes.
so it's life or death for somebody out there. I don't care if you're a nutrition. I don't care if you're in finance. I don't care if you're in real estate. I don't care if you do mobile homes. I don't care if you do trucking. I don't care if you do taxes. I don't care if you teach people how to climb ropes in the gym. I don't care what it is. I need you to show up and be consistent in that space because, again, it's life or death for somebody else.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you talk about courses. You design courses.
Yeah.
Why is courses your vehicle to help people to make impact?
Yeah. And I do say courses, but it's programs just in general. And the main reason is when I look at courses or programs in general is that you could touch more people.
Mm,
You see, even myself, I have different little small programs and I'm executing on a larger program. But every person I touch in regards to the courses, and I've done 30 different ones, averaging on average of between 11 months, people have made $100,000. Well, everybody's made at least $100,000 in 11 months, but I have some that have done 8 million, some of them 2 million, some 3, right? But more often than not, I actually have a 98% completion rate across all the board.
mm,
That's crazy because truly in the course, in personalized courses, an 8% completion rate, meaning that most people finish the first portion, never come back. That
mm,
affects the brand. That affects what they paid for. They're now in debt, right? They haven't completed. They haven't got the full education or understanding as far as what they took. And so what happens is it is the best vehicle to be able to educate people. Right? You got to think about it. Before they used to think colleges. Colleges, you do the minimum 4 years. So those who are going into law, to psychology, or going into the doctor program or what have you, then yeah, you're going to go longer. But for the most part, it's 4 years, and a lot of people come out and they're like, I'm not even working in the field of study. And so what happens is with a course or a program, it's a more fine-tuned, more executable thing, right? And what I really loved about just programs or courses in general, and the reason I say programs, because a course could be a live situation. It could be similar to a podcast. It could be on a Zoom. It could be face-to-face. It could be a workshop type deal. But what I love is that I'm teaching you a specific skill set that you can execute on and be able to change the trajectory of yourself and your family, right? I rock with a lot of people, and the first thing that I say beforehand is how many people you've helped, right? And the reason why I'm in that is because we're trying to create a program to help other people. We're not worried about as far as your success. We're worried about the success of others that you've helped, and then we're putting that together and repackaging that up. We're not just saying, "Hey, you know what? I've learned how to make 6 figures." Great. Well, have you learned how to? If somebody was to say it took me 2 years to make 6 figures, how long did it take you to make your first? That's a different type of pain point, right? There's a different type of thing that you will have to look at. There's different pains and problems and hurdles that your students will go through that you've never seen or experienced. Yet at the same time, you will have a solution for them. But if you're not mentioning them, how they going when they come up? We already know that people ain't going to know what to do.
mm.
They're not going to know what to do because you're not even talking about it.
Right.
And the reason why, again, go back to courses, just to sum it up, is that you have something where I can now say, okay, I'm going to teach you or help you get to a level of transformation in less time than it took me, with less money than it took me. And then hopefully at the same time, you can garner resources or money from that thing. So you're adding value, save time, save money, make money,
Right.
all in this one package.
I like that. So
Yeah,
as we close out,
yeah,
first
yeah,
I want
yeah.
to thank you for your time. 'Cause I know you're a busy, man. High profile guy like you know what I'm saying? But I met you in person, man. You're a cool dude, follow Christ. So that's one thing I love about you too, bro. So
Appreciate
we
it.
need to lead the audience, man, whether it be about money, business, life, like you got the flow, brother. And thank you for your time again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, I'm always big on showing up, but then also at the same time doing what you said you were going to do. There's a lot of people are saying like, yo, on my birthday, I'm gonna start that book, or at the beginning of the year, I'm gonna start my podcast, or come the next quarter, I'm gonna finish that thing that I said I was gonna start. Yet you never do it.
Hmm.
And I always say those things are excuses. My clothing line is called Do It Ugly. And the reason why I say do it ugly, a lot of times we got to get in the space of not waiting for perfection, because perfection is just another word or a pretty word for procrastination. We're trying to get it right. Now, here's the thing about it. Most of the successful people in the space, they ain't get it right the first time. They ain't get it right the second time. Matter of fact, sometimes they ain't get it right the 100th time. But again, we're making excuses, and the excuse is just a sophisticated lie. So who are you lying to? Me, you, or both of us? Even outside of just business and entrepreneurship, maybe it's that mom you need to reconcile with. Maybe it's that child you need to talk to. Maybe it's that dad that you need to forgive, right? We're stepping out of our comfort zone. We get comfortable with being uncomfortable because a lot of times our comfort zone don't nothing stay there or nothing grows there. I always use the analogy of my two grandmas. One of my grandmas is 86 and she's on life support. I love her to life. Yet at the same time, she didn't move around. I have another one who just on February 13th celebrated her 96. She lives a lot alone, right? She used to mow the lawn out back, and it was about the size of a football field. And we used to always say, Grandma or Mama, you need to sit down. You don't need to be mowing that lawn out there by yourself. And the audacity of somebody who's 40, 50, 60 to tell somebody who's 90 that they need to sit down. She's going to probably outlive all of us. But what I'm saying is we got to keep moving. We got to keep going, not be in the space of being stagnant. And a lot of us are stagnant, whether it's mental, whether it's in our business, it's relational, it's emotional. We're stagnant and we're not moving. So let this, if they're under the sound of my voice, I don't care where you hear this at. Let this be the day to say, okay, I'm changing that. Let this be the day to say, I'm going to finish what I started. Let this be the day I'm going to step out of that comfort zone. Let this be the day to say, you know what, I'm not going to take any more or allow any more excuses from other people around us or that person who is in the mirror. Let this day to say, I'm going to do it ugly.
Yes, sir. So how can people find out about you online, social media, and your website?
Yeah. You can hit me up matter of fact, connect with me. I have as far as links in my description, but on IG at featuring _ Jose. So as soon as you start to type FEAT, usually my name will pop up. But at featuring _ Jose, you can go to gotcourse.com. I have some stuff on there. Preparing a nice little launch to teach in regards to branding. And course is the easiest way that I know how to do it and be the most effective.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you for your time, Jose. And this is the Your Money Hour podcast.